So welcome back. Next up is Rob from AllIot, and he's going to tell everything around building IoT use cases using LoRaWAN. Enjoy his talk.
Hello, everybody. My name is Stacey Higginbotham, and I am the host of the Internet of Things podcast and the creator of the Stacey on IoT newsletter. And I am here with Rob Ferriday from AllIot. Hello, Rob. How are you doing today?
Hi, Stacey. Fine, thank you.
Excellent. So I have to ask, how many people make jokes about your last name, given that you're in the wireless business and Faraday cages are terrible?
Well, people do make jokes. It's something ever since school that you get used to and almost fluff straight over your head.
Okay, well, there you go. Hopefully it's not offensive. I think it would be kind of cool. We are here to talk about LoRaWAN networks, and you guys build them and you guys build them and deploy things on them, correct?
We supply the equipment for our clients to build, in reality. But our speciality is in the LoRaWAN product from start to finish, so right through the technology stack.
Okay, and it's a shame you don't build them because that's also hard. But basically, everything about deploying and building a LoRaWAN network can be a challenge because it's not as easy as Wi-Fi, right? It's difficult. So, what advice do you have for people who I'm like, hey, I need low power, wide area networks. How should I go about kind of speccing out this project and thinking about it?
Well, on most projects, it comes down to really a couple of things to begin with, and that's what data do you need to collect and how or what are you going to do with the data, because that gives you the framework of how you're going to put the project together. Everybody has slightly different use cases, some of them very, very simple, that they're looking for some simple data points and they want them displayed in a particular way. Others tend to be multi-use cases, so they want quite a sophisticated dashboard made. So if you really work backwards, you'll get the best solution. What do you need to collect and what are you going to do with it? Is it simply going to look at it or are you going to take actions based on that sort of setup? And that's the start of pretty much any project that you look at.
Got it. And then what are the elements I need to think about? Like, so what do I need to build a LoRa network? Obviously, there are gateways.
On the project itself, I think it'll come down to a couple of things. Is this something new? Does it exist? So are we looking at a project where you need to have an end-to-end solution? And if that's correct, then you're going to need your dashboard or user interface. You're going to need your LoRa network built, or are you going to go onto a public network if one's available? And then you're going to need the right sensors to collect that data. So those are the elements that will be involved in most end-to-end solutions. And with an end-to-end solution, can it all be pre-provisioned? Because, as you know, it's not the easiest technology to roll out. So if you can make it almost plug and play, can everything be set up prior to shipping out to the site and making sure it's fit for purpose? The other way of doing it tends to be retrofit. So is it a process that exists? Because there are processes out there that are semi-manual. They're not necessarily Internet of Things. It's something that a temperature, for instance, already been taken, but that's being recorded by somebody walking around with a clipboard and piece of paper. So do you want that data picked up, sent centrally? Do you want to pull in that data from lots of different things automatically? And with that, then what you're trying to do is make a smart process. So you're taking an existing situation and making it smart. So you might only need the sensors and the LoRa network and use the existing visualization system that's there.
Okay. Well, and you have to think of the clouds. I mean, it may all be local, but I also have to, there's the in-between step of sensor to like a gateway device, and then there's the data gets sent somewhere. So I have to think also about who my software provider is, right?
Correct. So if you're using a piece of software that can be adapted and a suitable API to the LoRa network server, then that might be the ideal solution. You don't need to reinvent something that works well, but it's how you're collecting that data in the first place. So something like a smart building project, traditionally, in the past, you're going with planning and miles of wire into different sensors and pulling them all in together into maybe some sort of BMS or building management system. Now you can go in with a handful of sensors, put them on the side of the wall, turn them on. The local gateway will pick up the data and send it to the cloud. There's your information. That's the beauty of a LoRaWAN network. It gives you the ability to retrofit a process in a very cost-effective and time-efficient way.
Okay. No, that is compelling. All right. So what are the biggest pitfalls? I'm thinking about, like, I've got my sensors on the wall. Someone could just come in and move them. But what are the pitfalls when doing something like this?
I think the first thing to look at is understand the project and know what the client's looking for. Just to say that they want to do a particular process, that's fine. But as I said right at the beginning, what data do they need and how are they going to use it? The next thing is to really understand the site that you're going to make the install. It's fine with a proof of concept. You can get that running in an office or a control situation quite quickly and quite easily. But that has to move into the real world. And you have to understand, therefore, what does the real world in this particular project look like? You're looking at, is that signal going to work? If it's a public network, have you surveyed the site properly? Public networks may be given a LoRa network signal, but if it's inside a building or inside a Faraday cage, for instance, you're going to get some problems. You might need extra gateways. You might need to set it up on a private network rather than rely on the public network. You also need to look at, are there some environmental issues? On multi-site, for instance, not all sites are going to react the same. You might have temperature variations. You might have weather issues. So make sure that you're looking at the right product for the right environment. One size doesn't fit all in most cases. Well, and the other thing to look at is, what are the end goals? Okay, what constitutes success? Because in many cases, or in most cases, you also would want to look at scale. So
I was just going to ask you about scale. Good. Okay. Go there.
So if you're looking at scale, it depends on how we're determining scale. Is it one site that's going to take up thousands of sensors, or is it multi-sites? Is that in one region? Because LoRa varies in different regions. Or if it's multinational, there are lots of different countries, and there are LoRa frequencies in most countries, but are the products that you're going to use ready and specified for those different countries? So you need to understand what the end goals are, and there are plenty of pitfalls if you're trying to do everything yourself. Very rarely will you be the expert in all of these fields. So pick the right partners to work with. Make sure that you're using products that will work in those environments. Sometimes you might be developing your own product because it doesn't exist, but there's no point in doing it if it does exist. You're going to go through an awful lot of pain trying to provide something for every single use case that you want to do. So make sure you're using the right tools that are available, and keep an eye on what's changing. The market is changing tremendously. When we started, we had one sensor manufacturer as a partner and one gateway. Right now, I think we're up to about 26 different partners and access to over 500 different sensors. So things change enormously on a regular basis, and make sure that you're working with the right partner that can help you.
Awesome. Okay. And let's see. Sorry, I had a little dog action happen in there. Even in these virtual things, it's terrible. But I like the point you made about thinking about, there were several really awesome points, so I'm just going to drive those home because I thought they were so good. One, when I'm talking scale, it can be thousands in one place or many places, and that's going to affect things. Thinking about different environments, different sensors, like how ruggedized certain things should be, or how they should be, what radio frequencies they should actually be on. And what about data regulations? I have to throw that in there because that's become a big issue with some of this stuff. Do you all think about that or have to deal with that?
Yeah, but you've got data regulations. You've got, will it work with things like GDPR based on what sort of data you're collecting? You've got security issues of how you're running access to the platforms themselves. And you've also got certification issues around the equipment in different countries. So just because something works in a particular country doesn't mean it's necessarily regulated for the next country. So you have to look into that for especially the multinational projects. If there's no national network there, you're going to have to build a network. When you build a network, and this is quite important, is the radio equipment going to be certified? Some countries have quite robust rules that people work within, but that means you might not necessarily be able to use the same hardware on every site. So you'll have to understand that. Ultimately, it comes down to planning.
Okay.
The more you know about the project and the more you know about your client, the more help you can be to them.
Excellent. All right. And then just for wish list purposes, it is still very hard to, deploy and build out, or not necessarily build out, but build a LoRa implementation. I keep saying network, but really what I'm thinking of is implementation, trying to make something on this. What is one thing you would ask for to make it easier?
At scale, the biggest issue tends to be the join or the provisioning. Okay, there's no universal way right now of being able to simply pick up a sensor, scan it, and it joins onto the network. And that piece needs to be there. If you can imagine, we have clients who are now using hundreds of sensors. Their plans are to use tens of thousands of sensors. You imagine joining every single one of them manually. That's a piece of work in itself, which might be just as expensive as other issues inside that project. It's also quite important when you're looking at these sort of scale projects that what we need is the ability to be able to get the sensors at the right commercial cost, and that we can also make sure that it's covering the right project in the right way. Something that you can do isn't necessarily going to be used, because if it's too expensive to use, that's the end of the sport. No one's going to implement it. So if there's a universal provisioning system, it would be hugely, I would say, adopted by pretty much everybody in this space.
Okay, and they did recently add QR codes, so you could scan a QR code. So we want more than that?
No, we want all manufacturers to adopt a single code where if everybody uses the same system, then it's a step in the right direction. Right now, we have everybody trying to do different things in different ways. We would hope that changes in the future. And that's a challenge for us as well as a sort of distributor to work with these manufacturers to try and point them in the right direction.
Got it. I knew we'd get to cost and standardization. That's always the big hitching point early on in these technologies. Well, Rob, thank you so much. I'm going to let you go because I know someone is desperately trying to reach you.
Yeah. Well, thanks for your time.
Thank you.